Hi, hi, hi. Welcome to the Pretty Dangerous podcast. My name is Paige Rue. I cannot help but laugh right now because everything in my lower region just feels like it's on fire. And I'm just proud of myself that I put makeup on and curled my hair. Do we ever feel like this sometimes? We're gonna yap for a minute because I have some updates. But I'm doing 75 hard right now. So if you don't know what 75 hard is, it's like some people say it's extreme, and you're not wrong. But 75 hard is 75 days of this strict routine of two 45-minute workouts. One of those workouts have to be outdoors, no alcohol. You have to follow a diet. You have to read 10 pages of a nonfiction book, drink a gallon of water. What else am I missing? And take a progress picture every day. So I'm doing 75 hard on my own limits technically. I'm very strict on the no alcohol, the two 45-minute workouts with one being outside. And I'm on week 2 of this, or just finishing up week 2. But man, what I am struggling with is matching my menstrual cycle with like the the type of workouts that I'm doing. I am working resistance work at the gym 4 or 5 days a week. I'm going for a run one day and then I'm doing hot yoga the other day. So that is kind of my weekly system right now. But I wasn't tracking my cycle, and I'm normally really good at this. But I remember I was doing the hardest day yesterday, and it was glutes and legs. And I was talking to my husband at the gym, and I was like, why am I dragging? It's I literally feel I cannot lift up my water bottle right now. But anyways, I pushed through. Don't be a sissy lala. We can do this. So I do the workout, and then we have dinner. And I'm like, oh, no wonder I started my period. So then this morning I go for my run, and my run, I'm dragging and dragging. The first day of your period, I highly recommend not going for a run, but I did it and I'm proud. And so I'm just sitting here laughing all morning leading up to me recording this because I am on the struggle bus. But we made a quad shot. I normally make a double, and we made a quad today. So anyways, what are we talking about today? Let's get into this. I'm actually really excited for this topic. I think it's something that I teach my students in both classes and in private lessons. And I think a very common question is Paige, where do I even start? Or the topic of firearms and personal protection is so daunting and it's such a long process. And instead of starting, it's just no, I'm just not going to do it because the process looks so intimidating. You have to think of carry and guns and safety and your family and your kids and situational awareness and then the legal aftermath and having legal support and all of this stuff, all for something that you can't control, for an event that you don't know when or if it's going to happen, and you have to prepare for this, and it's just daunting. And so this is how I explain it to my students. And when we talk about this, I am going to put us on 2 journey pathways. So keep that in mind. And I want you to have the mindset of it is a journey of gaining confidence in your life and having control in your life. One journey is going to be something that you can start today, and the other journey is going to be a little bit longer, but they're going to work together. We're talking about where to start in your firearm journey, and we're going to talk about the force continuum. Let's get into it. Okay, I told you, 2 parallel journeys. So the first one that we're going to go on is the continuum, the force continuum. The second one that we're going to go on is the firearm. Now, when you think of firearm, you're like, okay, training with a firearm safety, concealed carry. How do I carry? Where can I carry? Do I travel with the gun? What about my kids? Do I have legal protection? What are the state laws? All of that. And you're just like, screw that. I'm not doing it. I don't blame you, but I promise you after this podcast, I hope that you will feel a little bit more comfortable. Now, on the other side that people don't think about, or they think about in the wrong order, is that force continuum, or as you know it, I would think of situational awareness, how to present yourself. We talk about, when you're walking in a parking lot, don't be on your phone, look around, things like that. But I'm going to get into a little bit more in depth on that and the term is called the force continuum. Now, there's a law enforcement way, and then there's a civilian way. I'm obviously going to tell you about the civilian way. A very important theme that I want you to focus on throughout this episode is what is your normal and what are your boundaries? And you might not have answers to either of those right now, but as I discuss, I want you to think of those. Do I know my normal in my community, in my home, in my relationships? And then what are your boundaries with your friends, your relationships, people you don't know, or spaces that you're in that are unknown? What are your boundaries? So keep all that in mind. But the continuum of force, I think, is extremely important. And that's something that you can start right now that people tend to not, or they think, oh, I do that. I practice situational awareness. If you're driving right now or you're on a walk, you're probably thinking, like, I'm looking around, I'm paying attention. You're only in one earbud right now, Paige. But let's dive a little bit more into that. So the continuum of force is basically a scale of response. We're starting at the bottom of the step and we're working our way up. The first step is going to be appearance and preparedness. The second is verbal commands. The third is less lethal. And the very top step is lethal. Now, in our minds, and what I train is the lethal option. That takes the most training, whether it's a knife or a firearm. That takes the most amount of training and honestly has the most liability for you, right? Those other three steps you can practice and you can work on and you can get proficient in while you are on that lethal step 4 firearm option. And that's what we need to get on track with. So now let's detail these out. The goal is to stay as low on those steps as possible, okay? So appearance, situational awareness, your head is up, you're not buried in your phone, you're noticing people, you're noticing exits. So situational awareness can look really different. And I think what people do is they say, oh, I look around. Well, what are you exactly looking for? Growing up, my dad did a couple games with us, and I don't even know if he considered it a game, but it was just like a practice that we honestly often did. So to practice situational awareness and turn it into a game as kids, we did a game of like memory or notice. So for instance, if we're walking in the mall, we would be passing by, and we honestly went to the mall often with my dad. He's a massive shopper. It's probably where I got it. But we would walk and he would say, describe that person who just walked by us. And we would have to explain, call it 2 to 3 characteristics of that person. And don't get too wrapped up in this. Think height, think ethnicity, think tattoos, clothing, and even for kids, they're not really going to understand age, but depending on the age or for you, can you decide what age range this person is in? Training your mind to pick up on key indicators or key characteristics of someone or something takes practice. And being able to do that under stress, again, takes practice. And that's something that you can do literally today. So another game that we did, that was one like while we're walking around, but another game that we did was while we were driving. And now I am not a car person by any means. Like I can get the make and model kind of, but this game honestly helped me become more aware of make and models and like descriptions of vehicles. So as we're driving, same thing, say, describe the car that just passed us. Or if you're at a stoplight and there's a car next to you or in front of you, describe that car as you drive away so that they can't look at the vehicle, they have to remember the vehicle. And then something that I am actively practicing is, can I remember like the first 3 numbers or letters of the license plate? That one is difficult for me. So I try to remember that. You can also look at the license plate. Is it your state or is it someone else's state? I'm not over here trying to remember all 50 state like license plates. That's not happening. But I do know if it was an Arizona license plate where I live or if it was a different one. That is how we practice situational awareness, or I guess a fun way of practicing situational awareness. Now, going more to appearance, we're talking body language. How are you presenting yourself? Are you hunched over? And this is where that confidence comes in, because are you hunched over and are you timid and are you looking up like, are they looking at me? Or is it like, please don't look at me? Or are you walking in shoulders back and turning heads? And are you saying, I own this space. I deserve to be in this space, and no one is going to take me out of this space. So do not mess with me. Those are two very different body language appearances. Walk in confidently, walk in intentionally, and walk in letting people know, hey, I see you and I'm paying attention. That's all. Now, these two I like going together, but space and de-escalation in the appearance step that we're talking about in this force continuum. So keeping distance from strangers and not letting people close gaps in unnecessary. This is going back to that mindset of what are your boundaries? What is normal? And then what are your boundaries? Setting clear boundaries for yourself, especially if you have children present, but even being by yourself. What are your boundaries of someone coming in too close? And make sure that you respect your own boundaries. And then de-escalate that. If someone is overstepping that boundary or that unspoken boundary, can you leave early? Can you redirect your position or your location? And the most important part of this, and especially de-escalation, is just trust your gut feeling. If something feels weird or you say, this doesn't feel normal, just get out of it. That is the goal, right? We want to create space. We want to get out of the situation so that we can go home. And doing it as far in advance as possible is what's going to keep you as low on that force continuum as possible, which is the goal. All right, verbals. This is step 2, right? On this force continuum, we go up. How do you use your verbals? Now, as women, we are taught to, again, have the benefit of the doubt, have calm voices. You say thank you, excuse me, or I'm sorry, but could you scoot over? Or I'm sorry, but am I in your way? Why do we start things with I'm sorry? My old assistant will appreciate this, but when I started working with her, she apologized for like breathing, and got on her and she's, are you mad at me? Are you mad at me? And I said, I will be mad at you if you continue to apologize for something that you did not do. And it took her a while, and I'm so proud of her because she's so strong-willed and it shows now. But I was like, do not apologize for standing. Do not apologize for, bumping into someone. Change that apology for excuse me. Don't say I'm sorry. No more I'm sorries unless you did something wrong. Practice that today because that'll help you in your self-confidence of, oh, I deserve to be right where I am. Oh, excuse me. Or if you're interrupting someone, excuse me, but that's fine. But saying I'm sorry means I am lesser than. And do not do that. You are not lesser than. So, verbals. This is going to take practice. If you don't yell and use, I call it my cheerleader voice, but if someone is making you feel uncomfortable and it is to a point where you have to give commands, and I say commands, not questions, you have to command someone to get out of your space or stop doing something that you do not want. You have to practice activating your diaphragm and using your voice intentionally. And it's really uncomfortable if you've never done this. So, for instance, when you're in your car or if you're home alone, this is something that you need to practice in the mirror if possible. But if you feel uncomfortable, you give commands such as stop, back up, get away. Notice I'm giving commands and I'm not asking a question. What are you doing? That is inviting a conversation. You are not inviting a conversation. You are creating boundaries and respecting your boundaries. So you say stop. And now in my cheerleader voice, turn your volume down if you need to. Stop, back up, and make eye contact with that person. I think I'm soft spoken in like my real life because I'm like ready to unleash my cheerleader, commander, range voice, boundary voice. We can't use her all the time, folks. We have to give her a break. But also a mom voice, right? Use that diaphragm of stop. And if that doesn't trigger someone to go, whoa, then now you're starting to understand what this person's intentions are with you. So with this force continuum, the goal is to create very clear distinctions on what is normal and what is not normal, and normal human interaction and abnormal human interaction. So we're moving up to verbals. If someone does not respond in the way that you want, we're starting to creep up now to a less lethal option. As you're giving commands, you can create space. Verbals are like the most important weapon that you have and were born with. So, how do you practice this? And it's so uncomfortable. Don't go like singing in the shower. That's totally different. If you are in your car or you're at home, you're in the bathroom, whatever, I have to make sure like no one's here. Thankfully, I practice it on range all the time. Practice saying a few commands. Don't try to do this like whole book of commands that you're going to give in conversations that you're going to have with this possible aggressor in the future. Let's simplify it. Give 3 commands. Stop, back up, try a longer one. I'm uncomfortable. Try those 3. It's going to feel so weird at first, I promise. You need to practice it. Let me know how it goes. I would love if you recorded it and sent it to me, but I won't ask that of any of you. It is fun though. It's very uncomfortable at first, but I promise it will help you with your confidence and like this on this journey of this force continuum. Now we're moving up. So you're given this command. If any person in their right mind, if you give a command with your mom, cheerleader, range, mean girl voice, they should back up. They're like, whoa, 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 like this is a total misunderstanding, and they leave. Great. That just means that you were rude to a random person. It's okay to apologize for being rude after the fact, but I'd rather be rude than unsafe. Cool? If you give a command and someone clearly still continues on, something is suspicious. And this is abnormal and this is unsafe. Can I create distance? Can I get away? Or are we moving up to physical tools and less lethal tools? Now we're on step 3 of the force continuum. The goal overall when we're in this position, even with verbals and physical tools, is to just get out. Physical tools, this could be your hands, this could be car keys, this could be, my grandpa used to carry a sock with 2 pool balls in them, and then he would tie them in knots, and he kept that in his car. That is a physical tool, possibly lethal, possibly not less lethal. Like it's an option. It could also be pepper spray, a stun gun, a taser. The goal with physical tools is that simply for you to get out, to create distance, and to run away. Honestly, physical tools are awesome too, and they might be like the top of your force continuum if you're in a state that it's very difficult to get a firearm or you can't carry, or if you're listening from another country and you can't have a firearm. If you are in a space or at a school where, you're definitely not allowed to carry, concert arenas, things like that, places where you're not legally able to carry a firearm or a lethal tool. So that's where that's really important. I also want to emphasize on, and I'll do a whole nother episode on this, but maybe you're not ready to carry a firearm, right? We're talking about those 2 parallels, and that second parallel path or journey is the firearm. And if we're not ready or at that comfort level of training with a firearm, you can carry with a less lethal tool, a taser, a stun gun, until you feel comfortable to get that next step up of a lethal tool. Okay. Now, last but not least, we're moving up to that lethal tool, and this is where that parallel journey starts adding in. So you see, we were working on those 3 steps, like the appearance, situational awareness, the verbal commands, the physical tools, all of those things you can do right now. And then at the same time, we're talking about that firearm, that lethal tool. Where do you start with that? Well, I always tell people when you are training with a firearm, we also have to remember that a firearm is an amazing sport and it's an amazing empowering tool. So when you train with us, and I tell my students this in my classes and in my private lessons, I say, I want you to shift your brain to we are training with a gun because it's a super fun sport and it's going to get competitive and we're just going to get really good at something for us. If you add this pressure to you, you're less likely to learn, to retain, and to improve as fast as you would as if you turned it into a game and a fun and empowering experience. And so I tell people that. Where do you start? Have it be an experience for you, because the confidence and the capabilities with the gun will just come naturally with that. When you shift your brain to that, now actually, where do you start with this, right? Take a class. Take a class with someone that is not a family member. I know, I'm sorry, but take it from someone who is a professional. Both you and that professional will obviously take it seriously, and they will be able to catch things and suggest things that maybe a family member cannot. The more training you get, the more you'll realize and think, gosh, I need to take another class. Gosh, I'll never you don't hit this like graduation of like I am good. I am great. Even me to this day, I'm like I am not as proficient as I want to be. That's okay, but don't make that stop you from getting training in the first place. That the firearm journey is a long process. It's almost a lifestyle. It is not something that you are going to take a couple classes and you're going to be like, that's good. I'm ready to carry. I'm great. No, you're never going to feel ready. And once you accept that, I swear it's better. Okay. I will dive deeper into like the firearm experience, but I really wanted to talk about like the two parallel journeys today on this episode because it's going to be kind of what this entire podcast is about, right? Creating confidence, but also the firearm and what else? Like the firearm and dot dot dot. Because in my opinion, it's not talked about enough and it's important. And know that when you're doing these two pathways and these two journeys, turn it into an experience and turn it into a lifestyle. This is not a daunting task. This is something that will truly make you feel in control. It will help you create boundaries. It'll help you be more aware and it'll help you be a better protector of your family. I love this stuff. I can go on for hours. Anyways, ladies, that's all I have for you today. I feel like there will be lots of questions. Please feel free to ask. Please comment. Please message me on my website. Please email me. Podcast will be weekly. I haven't figured out totally on what day of the week. If you've noticed, these podcasts are like coming out on random days. Let it be, okay? Remember, this is like a fun thing for me as well. And I don't want to put in like too much pressure. My goal is literally post a podcast once a week. So figuring that out, it will start to become more like scheduled and streamlined, but I'm kind of doing it when I'm ready. So, lastly, if you're watching me, I have this leg tattoo, if you don't know, and it's F. Scott Fitzgerald. It's a quote about inner beauty, and F. Scott Fitzgerald wrote Great Gatsby, and I'm like obsessed with the 1920s. But I have a tattoo on my leg because my goal is to get a 1920s leg sleeve. But I found this at Marshall's, and it's this big, like 24 by 36. What is this? Like a picture of the actual quote from F. Scott Fitzgerald that's tattooed on my leg. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's going up in my office. So I think I'm going to put it here on the wall. And then we have like some lamps and I got to move stuff around, but I didn't want guns in the background. You know what I mean? Like we're just girls. Sometimes I like the guns and I like the badassery, but sometimes I just like a plant in a picture and it's cute in my coffee. So anyways, love you all. Thank you so much for listening. Thanks for hanging out with me. I hope you got some good insight of like where to go from here, even if you can't make it to the range. What can you do today? Play the game. Add your kids if you've got kids. Do it by yourself when you're at the mall. Whatever. Let me know how you do. And I will be seeing you next week. Thank you. Bye bye.